Hello, fellow educators. Welcome to the second episode of Teacher's Tint, a place to regain your strength after a long day, week, or maybe semester this 2023. I'm your host, Steve G, and today we'll talk about Teaching Now and Then, Part 2. Students, what can we say about them? No doubt they're different than they were 30 years ago, but how? In this episode, I'll share my top 5 list of ways in which I believe they're different. Last week in part one, we dealt with teachers, while today's part two will cover children, both now and then. So, let's talk about students. The first way I think students have changed, at least here in the US, is in terms of backgrounds and the perception about them. Kids 30 years ago did not want to be different, and when they were, they quickly tried to blend in. It seems like different was frowned upon, right? Today we see diverse backgrounds, cultures, and languages. People are proud of their heritage and are not desperate to necessarily leave it behind. Students today embrace their individuality and understand their uniqueness as an essential step towards a healthy adult life. If you're teaching in other countries, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Secondly, groups of students were more homogeneous in an academic sense as well. Students who were not deemed ready were retained. Currently, we find a much wider range of knowledge and abilities in each group of kids. I myself have students on a second, third, and fourth grade level in my fifth grade class, as well as a couple of more advanced on a sixth grade level. A higher proportion of dyslexia cases and other various learning disabilities has accentuated this disparity in students' levels within the one classroom. The one size fits all approach of one lesson for all kids used by some teachers in the past is absolutely unthinkable in this environment. Today, personalized learning, individual goals, and small groups have become a must. Also, student behavior has changed. Students are not necessarily afraid of the teachers anymore. Parents also offer a contrasting view to those of the past. One of the listeners who responded to my invite to send input ahead was Florencia, a principal in a K 12 school in Argentina. She shares that some parents support their kids in everything they feel or whatever they're upset about, even if they're not right, as a way of being a good parent. I couldn't agree more with her. It's good to know this is not just happening here locally. Certainly in the past, parents, in the presence of conflict, would mostly stand by the teachers by default. Just like in Argentina, here in the US, some are showing little support for educators while openly siding with their own children without even bothering to hear the teacher's side of the story. An increasing proportion of fights between separated parents and custodial battles with kids living in two homes at different times of the week have affected children's behavior at school as well. Involving parents, both whenever possible, since day one, and getting them on our side to develop a common front has become a crucial factor no modern day teacher can afford to neglect. To make matters more complex, the prevalence of ADHD, ODD, and other conditions has definitely changed the type of students we see in our classrooms now. In my presentation, Go for the Heart First, I stress the importance of socio emotional learning as a means to successfully get to our students in today's complex learning environment. In fourth place, the influence of technology. Students no longer sit to listen to the teacher's long lectures. Technology now dominates the classroom landscape, and students learn with and through it. This has brought a new challenge to the classroom. It is hard for teachers to create an ever engaging environment to appeal to the students' now ever decreasing attention spans. I'd like to point out a couple of sad and worrying effects of the overuse of technology. On the one hand, some kids are losing some essential social and life skills, with many finding themselves less capable of interacting with other adults in their daily lives. On the other hand, Fewer students seek books as a means of entertainment. Dull, plain pages of a novel can hardly compete against a flashy, multi stimulating video game, right? Lastly, my number five, which is tied to the previous one, and I know will stir some reactions. In the past, I believe kids were just kids, meaning they were more playful, had more intrinsic motivation, they were more grateful, and were easily amazed. Sadly, I have noticed that many children today are more entitled, less motivated, they're hard to please, and to feel astonished. In my presentation, How to Rid Your Class of Child Entitlement, I point out ways in which entitlement has harmfully permeated into our classrooms, and I discuss ways to eliminate or at least minimize it. In conclusion, different backgrounds, many grade levels in one class, students' behavior, technology, and entitlement are the five topics on my top five list covered in today's episode, Teaching Now and Then, Part 2. I would love to hear what items would make your top five list. Feel free to email me this or other comments or suggestions to steve at teacherstent.com. Again, that's steve at teacherstent.com. One of the ones who reached out has been Maria, an elementary school teacher here in North Texas, who shared is struggling with health issues as she tries to do her work. Greetings to you, Maria, and our wishes that you'll find the strength each day to show up and do this hard yet fulfilling job that is teaching. And please keep writing, guys. In the meantime, join us next week for our podcast's third episode, Our Response. Having listened in the last 2 weeks to how teachers and students have changed in the last 30 years, how are we going to respond to these changes? Email me in advance any thoughts you might have on this. And if you're enjoying the show, please don't forget to let your colleagues and friends know about Teacher's Tint. There's room for them too. Have a great week.